The moon reveals what daylight hides, ma petite. That is what Elise's grandmother had whispered to her every night before bed, stroking her hair with gnarled fingers that still smelled of lavender and earth. But when you are the Omega they cross the street to avoid, when grown wolves make warding signs as you pass, you learn that the moon only reveals how alone you truly are. And tonight at the Valmont Pack mating ceremony, Elise would discover that sometimes salvation comes not from waiting, but from the most dangerous lie ever told. The ceremony grounds glittered under the full moon like a promise Elise knew would never be kept. Silver lanterns swayed between ancient oak trees, casting pale light across tables laden with roasted venison and honeyed wine. Laughter rippled through the crowd, bright, expectant, cruel in its ease. Every unmated wolf in the Valmont Pack had gathered here, dressed in their finest, wearing hope like perfume. Everyone except Elise. She sat at the furthest table, the one partially hidden behind the ancient ash tree's massive trunk, where the lantern light did not quite reach. Her dress, a simple cream thing she had worn to 4 ceremonies before this, hung loose on her small frame. She had tried to make herself presentable, braided her dark hair with a ribbon her grandmother had given her years ago, scrubbed her nails clean from the garden work, but there was no hiding what she was. The cursed Omega. The one mothers pulled their children away from. The wolf whose very presence made warriors uneasy and elders mutter prayers under their breath. Did you see Lyanna Beaumont's dress? A voice drifted from the table nearest hers. Elise did not need to look to know it was Celeste, one of the Pack's favored daughters. Custom made from the Silver City. Alpha Marchand has not been able to take his eyes off her all night. Well, she is perfect for him. Another girl giggled. Strongest bloodline in 3 territories. Their pups will be legendary. Elise's fingers tightened around her cup of watered wine. She should be used to this by now. 23 years old and still unmated, still alone, still watching from the shadows while others found their forever. But the ache never dulled. It only settled deeper into her bones, a permanent winter that no spring would ever thaw. Elise. A gentle voice broke through her thoughts. She looked up to find Antoine, the Pack's healer, offering her a sad smile. He was old enough to be her grandfather, with kind eyes that had seen too much disappointment. You should not sit back here alone, child. Come join the others. I am fine here, Antoine. Really. Elise forced brightness into her voice. Better view of the ceremony from this angle. They both knew it was a lie. Antoine sighed, patting her shoulder before moving away. His touch was brief, careful, as though even kindness required caution around her. Elise watched him go, then turned her attention to the raised platform where Alpha Marchand stood, preparing to begin the ceremony. He was ancient by wolf standards, nearly 70, but still commanded respect with every word. His silver hair gleamed in the moonlight and his voice carried the weight of decades of leadership. Brothers and sisters of Valmont, Alpha Marchand's voice boomed across the grounds. Tonight, under the harvest moon, we gather to honor our most sacred tradition. The mating ceremony bonds our pack, strengthens our bloodlines, and ensures our survival for generations to come. The crowd murmured approval, a wave of sound that washed over Elise without touching her. She watched as the unmated wolves began to gather closer to the platform, their excitement palpable. Scents mingled in the air, sweet and heady, as wolves sought their matches. Elise remained where she was, invisible, expecting nothing. At the center of the platform, the sacred flame burned in its ancient bronze bowl. The fire had been blessed by the moon goddess herself, or so the stories went. It had burned without ceasing for over 200 years, a symbol of the pack's vitality and the goddess's favor. No wolf in living memory had seen it extinguished. The flame danced higher as Alpha Marchand raised his hands. Let those who seek their mate step forward. Let the moon guide your hearts. Let the goddess bless your unions. One by one, wolves moved toward the platform. Lyanna Beaumont stepped forward first, her custom gown shimmering like starlight. She was breathtaking, and she knew it. Alpha Marchand's son, Henri, met her at the base of the platform, his eyes never leaving her face. The crowd sighed at the perfect match. Elise looked away. She had learned long ago not to torture herself with what she could never have. But then the air changed. It happened so suddenly that at first Elise thought she had imagined it. The sacred flame flickered. Once. Twice. Then, impossibly, it died. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Wolves froze where they stood. The laughter, the music, the joy of moments before vanished as if it had never existed. In its place, a silence so complete that Elise could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. The flame. Someone whispered. It cannot go out. It has never gone out. An omen. Elder Marguerite's voice cut through the darkness, sharp and certain. Bloodshed is coming. Panic spread faster than fire. Wolves scattered toward the edges of the clearing, instincts overriding reason. Warriors moved to protect their families. Elders huddled together, faces pale with fear. Alpha Marchand stood frozen on the platform, staring at the dead flame as though it had personally betrayed him. Then, from the treeline, came the sound of footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, unhurried. Every wolf turned toward the sound, bodies tensing for attack or flight. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and then he emerged from the shadows. He was massive. 7 feet tall if he was an inch, with shoulders broad enough to block out the moon. His hair was dark as midnight, his face all sharp angles and hard edges. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never known fear, never needed to. Power radiated from him like heat from a forge, and every instinct Elise possessed screamed at her to run. But she could not move. She could not even breathe. The giant Alpha stopped at the edge of the ceremony grounds, his eyes scanning the crowd with predatory focus. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder rolling across a summer sky. The cursed Omega. Where is she? The crowd recoiled as one, a collective flinch that left a gap in the gathered wolves. Through that gap, Elise could see him clearly now. See the way his gaze swept over faces, dismissing each one in turn. See the moment his eyes found her. Time stopped. He stared at her across the distance, and Elise felt pinned in place like a butterfly on display. His eyes were storm gray, cold and calculating, and they looked at her as though she were a puzzle to be solved rather than a person to be known. The crowd parted. Wolf stepped back, creating a clear path between the stranger and Elise's table. No one wanted to be in his way. No one wanted to be associated with whatever was about to happen. The giant Alpha began to walk toward her. Each step he took seemed to echo in Elise's chest. She tried to stand, to run, to do anything, but her body refused to obey. Terror locked her joints, turned her muscles to stone. All she could do was watch as he approached, as he closed the distance between them with the inevitability of a coming storm. He stopped directly in front of her table. Up close, he was even more imposing. His presence filled the space, demanded attention, made her feel smaller than she already was. Stand up. His voice was quieter now, but no less commanding. Act like you are mine. What? The word came out as barely a whisper. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist. The touch sent a shock through her entire body, something primal and terrifying and utterly beyond her understanding. He pulled her to her feet with effortless strength, and suddenly she was standing, facing him, trapped in the gravity of whatever he was. Do not speak. Do not resist. The words were for her alone, low and urgent. Just trust me. Before Elise could process what was happening, he pulled her close. His other hand came up to the nape of her neck, holding her in place, and then she felt it. The scent claim. He was marking her publicly, rubbing his scent into her skin, her hair, claiming her in a way that no wolf could misunderstand. The crowd erupted. Shock. Disbelief. Horror. All of it crashed over Elise in waves as she stood there, frozen in the stranger's arms, unable to comprehend what was happening or why. She is mine. The giant Alpha turned to face the crowd, his arms still locked around Elise's waist. Anyone who touches her answers to me. Who are you? Alpha Marchand had recovered enough to demand answers. His voice shook with barely contained rage. You dare interrupt our ceremony? You dare claim one of our pack without permission? The stranger's smile was sharp enough to cut. Theodore Laurent. And I claim mating rights under the old laws. She is mine by choice and by right. She has no say in this? Alpha Marchand gestured toward Elise. She did not choose you. Did you ask her if she chose to be cast out? Theodore's voice dropped to something dangerous. Did you ask her if she chose to sit alone, unwanted, while the rest of your pack celebrated? Elise trembled against him, confusion and fear making her dizzy. This was not real. This could not be real. Strangers did not appear from nowhere and claim cursed omegas. Alphas did not risk their lives for wolves they had never met. The old laws are clear. Theodore continued, his grip on Elise never wavering. I have claimed her publicly. I have marked her. Unless someone challenges my right, she leaves with me tonight. Silence fell again, but this time it was different. This time it was the silence of calculation, of wolves weighing risk against reward. No one wanted to challenge him. That much was obvious from the way they avoided his gaze, from the way even the strongest warriors shifted their weight toward retreat. But Elder Marguerite stepped forward, her ancient face twisted with something Elise could not name. You know what she is. The words were an accusation and a warning. You know the danger. Theodore's expression never changed. I know exactly what she is. That is why she is mine. Before anyone could respond, before Elise could even begin to understand what was happening, Theodore turned and began walking. His hand locked around her wrist like iron, pulling her along behind him. Elise stumbled, nearly fell, but he did not slow down. He dragged her through the crowd, past the dead sacred flame, toward the tree lean. Wait. She finally found her voice. Please, I do not understand. What are you doing? Why are you not here? His voice was flat, final. Walk. Now. So she walked. What else could she do? Her pack stood frozen behind them, watching but not helping. No one called out to stop them. No one demanded her return. They simply watched as the cursed Omega was dragged away by a stranger, and Elise knew with sickening clarity that they were relieved to see her go. Theodore led her through the forest with the certainty of someone who knew exactly where he was going. The trees closed around them, blocking out the moonlight, turning the world into shadows and uncertainty. Elise's breath came in short gasps, panic rising with every step. Where are you taking me? She tried to pull free, but his grip was unbreakable. Please, just tell me what is happening. He did not answer. He just kept walking, deeper into the forest, further from everything she had ever known. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Elise lost track of time in the darkness and fear. Finally, they broke through the trees into a small clearing. An abandoned cottage stood at the center, its windows dark, its door hanging crooked on old hinges. It looked like it had not been inhabited in years. Theodore released her wrist and gestured toward the cottage. Inside. No. Elise backed away, her heart hammering. Not until you tell me what is happening. Not until you explain why you did that. He turned to face her fully, and in the moonlight, she could see the exhaustion etched into his features. The weight of something she could not name. When he spoke, his voice was different. Quieter. Almost gentle. Why? Elise pressed. What do you want from me? To keep you alive. Theodore's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something other than coldness there. For now, I do not understand. Tears pricked at Elise's eyes. I am no one. I am nothing. Why would you risk challenging an entire pack for someone like me? Because you are not cursed, Elise. His use of her name startled her. You are suppressed. And if they find out what you really are, they will kill you before morning. The words hit her like a physical blow. What I really am. What does that mean? It means that Flame did not die by accident. Theodore stepped closer, his voice urgent. It died because of you. Because whatever they did to you when you were born is breaking. And when it breaks completely, when your true nature comes out, those elders will not hesitate. They will end you to protect themselves. Elise shook her head, unable to process what he was saying. You are not making sense. I am an Omega. A weak Omega. I have no power, no strength, nothing that could threaten anyone. That is what they wanted you to believe. Theodore's jaw tightened. That is what the suppression was for. But it is failing. I can feel it. They can feel it. Why do you think no one stopped me from taking you? Because I am cursed. Because no one wants me. No. Because they are afraid of you. They have always been afraid of you. They just hid it behind disgust and pity. Elise's legs gave out. She sank to the ground, her mind reeling. This could not be true. It could not be real. She was the cursed Omega. The unwanted. The one everyone pitied or avoided. We do not have time for this. Theodore crouched beside her. Listen to me carefully. We act mated. You stay close to me. You do exactly as I say. Do you understand? No. Elise looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. I do not understand any of this. You will. His expression softened, just barely. But right now, you need to survive the next 3 days. That is all that matters. 3 days? Why 3 days? Because that is how long I can keep the elders from acting. Theodore stood, offering her his hand. After that, they will either accept our mating or they will try to end you. And I am not sure even I can stop them if they all come at once. Elise stared at his outstretched hand. This was insane. All of it. But what choice did she have? Go back to the pack that had never wanted her? Face whatever danger he claimed was coming alone? She took his hand. He pulled her to her feet with the same effortless strength as before and led her toward the cottage. Inside, the space was small but surprisingly clean. Someone had prepared it recently, Elise realized. Blankets laid out. Food stored. This was not random. This was planned. You knew. She turned to face him. You knew you were going to do this. You planned it. Yes. Theodore did not bother denying it. How long have you been watching me? Long enough to know you were in danger. He moved to the window, looking out at the forest. Long enough to know I was running out of time. Who are you really? Elise wrapped her arms around herself. Why do you care what happens to me? I am someone who understands what it means to be different. Theodore's voice was quiet. Someone who knows what packs do to wolves they fear. And as for why I care? He turned to look at her. Let us just say our fates are more connected than you know. That is not an answer. It is the only answer you are getting tonight. He gestured toward the corner where the blankets were laid out. Sleep. Tomorrow we return to the pack and convince them we are mated. You will need your strength. I cannot just sleep after everything that happened. Elise's voice rose. You dragged me from my pack, claimed me in front of everyone, told me I am not who I think I am, and now you expect me to just rest? Yes. Because exhaustion makes you vulnerable. And right now, vulnerability could get you killed. Theodore's tone left no room for argument. Elise wanted to fight. Wanted to demand real answers. But the weight of the night crashed over her all at once, and she realized she was shaking from more than just fear. She was exhausted. Terrified. Lost. She moved to the corner and sat on the blankets. They smelled clean, like pine and winter air. Through the window, she could see Theodore taking up position outside the cottage door, standing guard like a sentinel. The moon hung high overhead, full and bright, revealing everything and explaining nothing. Elise pulled the blanket around her shoulders and stared at the stranger who had upended her entire world in the span of an hour. The moon reveals what daylight hides. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. Tonight, the moon had revealed that everything Elise thought she knew about herself was a lie. And tomorrow, she would have to pretend to be the mate of a man she did not know, to protect herself from a danger she did not understand. Outside, Theodore stood motionless, watching the forest. Inside, Elise tried to make sense of a world that had shifted beneath her feet. 3 days. He had said 3 days. 3 days to learn the truth. 3 days to survive. 3 days before everything changed again. Elise closed her eyes, but sleep did not come. How could it? When the cursed Omega everyone feared had just discovered she might be something far more dangerous. When a stranger had claimed her to save her life. When the sacred flame had died the moment he spoke her name. The moon revealed what daylight hides, ma petite. And tonight, Elise was terrified of what else it might reveal before the sun rose again. Dawn broke cold and gray over the cottage, filtering through the cracked window like an unwelcome guest. Elise had not slept. How could she? Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the sacred flame dying, saw Theodore's massive form emerging from the tree lean, felt his hands claiming her in front of everyone she had ever known. The memory played on repeat, each iteration making less sense than the last. She sat against the wall, the blanket still wrapped around her shoulders, watching Theodore through the window. He had not moved from his position outside the door. Had not rested, had not even sat down. He simply stood there like a statue, watching the forest with the patience of someone who had done this before. When the sun finally cleared the horizon, He turned and pushed open the cottage door. His eyes found hers immediately. Time to begin. His voice was rougher than it had been the night before, scraped raw by exhaustion or something else she could not name. Begin what? Elise stood on unsteady legs, her body stiff from a sleepless night on hard ground. Teaching you to act like we are mated. Theodore stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The space immediately felt smaller with him in it, the air charged with something that made Elise's skin prickle. We returned to the pack this morning. They will be watching. They will be looking for any sign that our bond is false. Elise's throat tightened. I do not know how to pretend to be someone's mate. I have never even been courted. I know. That is why I need you to listen carefully. Theodore moved closer, and Elise fought the urge to back away. Mated wolves share scent constantly. They stand close, touch frequently, show possession without thinking about it. You need to stop flinching when I get near you. I am not flinching. Even as she said it, Elise realized she had taken a half step backward. Theodore's expression did not change. Yes, you are. And they will notice. Every wolf in that pack has been looking for a reason to doubt us since the moment I claimed you. We cannot give them one. He reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, and placed his hand on her shoulder. The touch was light, almost gentle, but Elise still tensed. She could feel the heat of his palm through the thin fabric of her dress, feel the weight of his presence pressing against her awareness, like a physical thing. You need to relax. Theodore's voice dropped lower. Breathe. Let your body accept the contact instead of fighting it. Elise tried. She focused on her breathing, on the morning light streaming through the window, on anything but the stranger's hand on her shoulder. Gradually, achingly slowly, her muscles began to unlock. Better. Theodore did not remove his hand. Now scent. He leaned closer and Elise's eyes widened. This is necessary. When we return, they will check. They will know if we have not shared scent properly. What does that mean? Elise's voice came out smaller than she intended. It means I need to mark you again. More thoroughly this time. He was close enough now that she could see the flecks of darker gray in his storm-colored eyes. And you need to mark me in return. Elise's heart hammered against her ribs. I cannot. I do not know how. Instinct will guide you. Just do not fight it. Theodore's hand moved from her shoulder to the back of her neck, the same position he had held her in the night before. His other hand settled on her waist, pulling her closer until they were nearly chest to chest. Close your eyes. She obeyed without thinking and immediately regretted it. With her eyes closed, every other sense sharpened. She could smell him now, pine and winter air and something darker, wilder, something that called to a part of her she had thought long dead. Could feel the solid strength of him, the way his chest rose and fell with each breath, the warmth radiating from his body. Then he moved, tilting his head to press his face against the curve of her neck. Elise gasped, her hands coming up instinctively to grip his arms. The sensation of his breath against her skin, the deliberate way he inhaled her scent and replaced it with his own, sent electricity racing down her spine. Your turn. The words rumbled against her throat. Mark me. Elise did not know what possessed her to obey. Maybe it was the command in his voice. Maybe it was the way her wolf, dormant for so long, suddenly stirred with interest. Maybe it was simple survival instinct recognizing that this was necessary, no matter how strange it felt. She rose on her toes, pressed her face to the side of his neck, and breathed him in. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Something inside her shifted, clicked into place like a key turning in a lock. Her wolf surged forward with a strength that shocked her, demanding more, demanding completion. Elise's hands tightened on Theodore's arms as the world tilted sideways. She felt different. Stronger. Clearer. Like she had been living underwater her entire life and had just broken the surface for the first time. Easy. Theodore's voice cut through the haze. I know what you are feeling. The bond is stabilizing you. But you need to control it. Elise pulled back, nearly stumbling in her haste to put distance between them. What was that? What just happened to me? Theodore steadied her with hands that no longer felt like a stranger's. The claim creates a temporary lock. It keeps your power contained, channeled. You feel stronger because you are no longer fighting against your own suppression. I feel like I could run for miles. Elise stared at her hands as though seeing them for the first time. Like I could shift without even trying. This is what it is supposed to feel like? For someone like you? Yes. Theodore's expression was unreadable. Remember this feeling. When we face the pack, they will be testing you. They will try to make you doubt, to make you afraid. Hold on to this strength. Do not let them see you weak. Elise nodded, still reeling from the transformation. How long will it last? As long as we maintain the bond. As long as you stay close to me and we continue to share scent. His jaw tightened. Which is why we cannot afford to fail at this. They returned to the Packlands just after midday, when the sun was high and shadows were short. Elise walked beside Theodore, close enough that their shoulders brushed with every other step. She could feel the eyes on them before they even broke through the tree line, could sense the pack's attention like a physical weight. The ceremony grounds looked different in daylight. Abandoned. The tables still stood with half-eaten food rotting in the sun. The lanterns hung dark and lifeless. And at the center, the bronze bowl sat empty, the sacred flame that had burned for 2 centuries reduced to cold ash. Alpha Marchand waited for them on the platform, flanked by the pack's elders. His face was carved from stone, revealing nothing. But his scent, sharp with anger and something that might have been fear, told Elise everything she needed to know. Theodore Laurent. Marchand's voice carried across the grounds. You return. I said I would. Theodore's hand found the small of Elise's back, a casual touch that nevertheless broadcast possession to everyone watching. Did you doubt me? I doubted your sanity. Marchand's eyes flicked to Elise, and she fought not to shrink under his gaze. Claiming an omega under those circumstances, during an omen of bloodshed. Only a fool or a madman would do such a thing. Or someone who knows exactly what he is doing. Theodore's voice was calm, controlled. I have claimed Elise under the old laws. The bond is made. Unless you wish to challenge my right, the matter is settled. Elder Marguerite stepped forward then, her ancient face twisted with suspicion. The old laws require consummation within 3 days. Have you completed the bond? That is between me and my mate. Theodore's tone hardened. Unless you wish to violate sacred privacy, I suggest you accept what is plain to see. We are bonded. She bears my scent. I bear hers. The law is satisfied. Marguerite's eyes narrowed to slits as she studied Elise. You smell different, girl. Stronger. That is not natural. Neither is binding an infant to suppress her nature. Theodore's words fell like stones into water, creating ripples of shock through the gathered wolves. But we are not here to debate the past. We're here to claim our place in this pack. Unless you intend to exile us both? The silence that followed was deafening. Elise could feel the tension building, could sense the pack teetering on the edge of a decision that would change everything. She pressed closer to Theodore, letting his presence ground her, letting the strange new strength flowing through her veins keep the fear at bay. You may stay, Marchand finally said, though the words clearly pained him. But you will be watched. Both of you. And if there is any sign, any indication that this bond is false or that she poses a threat to this pack, I will end it myself. Old laws or not. Understood. Theodore inclined his head, the picture of respect. Then, if we are welcome, we will take our leave. My mate needs rest. He guided Elise away from the platform, his hand never leaving her back. They walked through the pack, and Elise felt every gaze following them, felt the weight of judgment and fear and barely concealed hostility. But with Theodore beside her, with this new strength singing in her blood, she did not cower. She lifted her chin and met their eyes, daring them to challenge what she was becoming. They made it halfway to the cottage before a young wolf, barely old enough to have attempted his first shift, spat at Elise's feet. Cursed Omega. His voice was high with bravado and fear. You should have stayed gone. Theodore moved so fast Elise barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next, he had the young wolf pinned against a tree, his forearm across the boy's throat. That is my mate you're insulting. Theodore's voice was deadly quiet. Apologize. Now. The boy choked out something that might have been an apology. Theodore released him, and he scrambled away, tail tucked metaphorically between his legs. Theodore returned to Elise's side as though nothing had happened. Was that necessary? Elise whispered as they continued walking. Yes. They need to see I will not tolerate disrespect. That I am willing to defend you. His eyes met hers. And you need to see it too. They reached the cottage without further incident. Inside, Elise sagged against the wall, the adrenaline finally fading. We survived. She almost laughed. I cannot believe we actually survived that. This was the easy part. Theodore moved to the window, his habitual position. The elders will meet tonight. They will discuss what to do about you. About us. What will they decide? I do not know. But I know they are afraid. And fear makes people dangerous. Night fell fast, stealing the warmth from the day and replacing it with creeping cold. Elise tried to rest, but sleep remained elusive. She could feel something building in the air, a pressure that made her teeth ache and her skin crawl. Outside, Theodore maintained his vigil, as motionless as ever. Then, voices. Distant at first, but growing closer. Elise moved to the window and saw them. The elders, walking through the forest toward the pack's sacred grove. All 5 of them, their faces grim in the moonlight. Theodore. She called softly. They are meeting. I know. He did not turn from his position. Do you want to know what they are saying? Elise hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Then follow me. And stay quiet. They moved through the forest like ghosts, Theodore leading with the confidence of someone who had scouted this path before. Elise followed, her new strength making the journey easier than it should have been. She did not stumble, did not tire, felt her body responding to commands she had never been able to give it before. The sacred grove was ancient, ringed by standing stones that predated the pack itself. The elders stood in a circle around a small fire, their shadows dancing against the stones. Theodore pulled Elise behind a massive oak, close enough to hear but hidden from view. We cannot let this continue. Marguerite's voice cut through the night. The girl is dangerous. The flame died because of her. Do you need more proof than that? We do not know that for certain. Antoine, the healer, spoke hesitantly. Perhaps it was merely coincidence. There are no coincidences when it comes to her. Another elder, a woman named Bridget, shook her head. She was bound at birth for a reason. We all knew what the seers said. Elise's breath caught. What did the seers say? Marguerite's answer chilled her to the bone. They said an Omega would be born under the broken moon. An Omega who would hold the power to judge. That Pax would fall or rise by her will alone. They called it the fracture prophecy. And we chose suppression over death. Antoine's voice was heavy with old guilt. We thought we could contain it, control it, keep her weak enough that the prophecy could never come to pass. You were fools. The 5th elder, a man named Claude, spoke for the first time. You cannot stop fate. You can only delay it. And now it is here, breaking free, and we have a stranger claiming her as his own. A stranger who knows far too much about what she is. Theodore Laurent is not random. Bridget agreed. He came here with purpose. He knew about the girl, about the suppression, about the prophecy. The question is why? Maybe he wants to use her. Claude suggested. Harness her power for his own ends. Or maybe he wants to stop the prophecy just as we do. Marguerite's eyes gleamed in the firelight. Either way, the solution is the same. The girl must die. Elise's hands flew to her mouth, stifling the gasp that threatened to escape. Theodore's hand gripped her shoulder, holding her still, keeping her silent. The full moon is in 2 days. Marguerite continued. We strike at dusk tomorrow. Before her power fully awakens. Before Laurent can prepare a proper defense. We end this quickly, quietly, and we tell the pack it was necessary to prevent catastrophe. What of the old laws? Antoine protested weakly. Laurent claimed her. To kill her is to violate sacred tradition. The old laws do not account for prophecies of destruction. Marguerite's voice was final. We do what we must to protect the many from the one. Vote now. All in favor of ending Elise Moreau before tomorrow's dusk? For hands rose. Only Antoine kept his down, his face a mask of sorrow and resignation. It is decided then. Marguerite looked satisfied. Tomorrow at dusk, the cursed Omega dies. Theodore pulled Elise away before she could hear more, dragging her back through the forest with urgency replacing stealth. She stumbled after him, her mind reeling, unable to process what she had just heard. They were going to kill her. Her own pack. The wolves she had lived among her entire life. They were going to murder her to prevent a prophecy she had never even heard of until tonight. Inside the cottage, Elise collapsed onto the blankets, shaking uncontrollably. This is not real. This cannot be real. It is real. Theodore crouched beside her, his face grave. And now you know the truth. You are not cursed, Elise. You never were. You were bound, suppressed, kept weak deliberately to prevent the fracture prophecy from coming to pass. What is this prophecy? Elise looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. What am I supposed to do that terrifies them so much? You are supposed to judge. Theodore's voice was quiet. To decide which packs deserve to survive and which deserve to fall. At least, that is what the old texts say. An Omega born under a broken moon, touched by the goddess herself, given the power to reshape the world of wolves according to her will. And you knew this. Elise's voice broke. You knew all of this when you came for me. You did not come to save me. You came to control me. Theodore's expression flickered, something that might have been guilt crossing his features. I came to stop the prophecy. He admitted. I did not expect to find you so thoroughly suppressed. So completely unaware of what you are. What you are, not who I am. Elise stood on shaking legs. To you, I am just a prophecy to be controlled. A power to be harnessed or destroyed. I am not a person. I am a problem. You are more complicated than that. Do not patronize me. Elise's anger flared, hot and sudden. You lied to me. Used me. Made me believe you were protecting me when really you were just claiming me before someone else could. Before I could become a threat. I never said I was a hero. Theodore rose to his full height. I said I would keep you alive. And I will. Whether you believe my reasons or not. Why? Elise demanded. If you believe the prophecy, if you think I am dangerous, why not just let them kill me? Why risk your life for something you fear? Theodore was silent for a long moment. Then, so quietly she almost missed it, he said, because I am losing control of you. Faster than I thought possible. And if I lose you now, everything I have sacrificed will be for nothing. Before Elise could ask what he meant, before she could demand real answers, something inside her shifted. The strength she had felt all day suddenly surged, no longer a gentle current but a raging river. Power flooded her veins, her bones, her very soul. She gasped, doubling over as her wolf, dormant for 23 years, finally broke free. The shift happened without warning, without pain, as natural as breathing. One moment Elise was human. The next, she was wolf. But not the small, pathetic wolf everyone expected. Not the weak Omega she had always believed herself to be. She was massive. Silver-furred. Ancient. Her wolf stood nearly as tall as Theodore's human form, with eyes that glowed like moonlight and a presence that made the cottage feel suddenly, impossibly small. Goddess, help us. Theodore breathed, staring at her with something between awe and terror. You are not just an Omega. You are the Omega. The first. The original. The one from which all others descended. Elise could not speak in this form, but she did not need to. She could feel it now, feel the truth of what she was burning through her like wildfire. This was not new power. This was old power, ancient power, power that had existed since the first wolf bowed to the first moon. Power that had been locked away, suppressed, denied since the day she was born. And now it was free. She shifted back to human form, the transition as easy as thought. When she stood again, she was still Elise, but different. Changed. The fear that had defined her entire life was gone, burned away by the certainty of what she had become. They are right to fear me, she said, her voice steady for the first time. Because I am everything they said I would be. Yes, Theodore agreed. And tomorrow at dusk, they will try to kill you for it. Let them try. Elise met his eyes, and this time she did not flinch, did not back down. I am done being afraid. I am done being the cursed Omega everyone pities or avoids. If they want to end me, they will discover exactly what it means to judge a pack. The full weight of her words hung between them, a promise and a threat rolled into one. Outside, the moon climbed higher, indifferent to the fate of the wolves below. Inside the cottage, an Omega who was more than Omega prepared for war, while the Alpha who had claimed her wondered if he had made the gravest mistake of his life. Tomorrow would bring blood. Tomorrow would bring judgment. Tomorrow, Elise would either die as the cursed Omega, or rise as something far more dangerous. The prophecy, delayed for 23 years, was finally coming true. Dawn came too soon and not soon enough. Elise had not slept, had spent the night pacing the small confines of the cottage while power hummed beneath her skin like a living thing. Theodore watched her from his position by the door, his expression unreadable, his silence more oppressive than any words could have been. When the sun finally cleared the horizon, the sound came. Footsteps. Dozens of them, moving through the forest with purpose. Elise moved to the window and saw them. The entire pack, it seemed, advancing on the cottage in a loose circle. Warriors at the front, families behind, elders directing the formation with grim efficiency. They are early. Theodore moved beside her, his body tense. They were supposed to wait until dusk. They are afraid. Elise's voice was calm, detached. Fear makes people act rashly. Alpha Marchand's voice boomed across the clearing. Theodore Laurent, send out the girl and you may leave unharmed. Refuse and you die with her. Theodore opened the cottage door, stepping into the morning light. Elise followed, and the pack recoiled collectively at her presence. She could see it in their eyes, the way they looked at her now. Not with pity or disgust, but with primal terror. I will not surrender her. Theodore's voice carried across the distance. She is mine. Under the old laws, under sacred tradition, she is mine. The old laws do not apply to abominations. Marguerite stepped forward, her withered hand clutching a silver knife that gleamed in the early light. That girl is a threat to every pack in every territory. She must be ended before her power fully manifests. Her power has already manifested. Theodore's hand found Elise, a gesture that might have been protection or possession. You are too late to stop what you fear. Then we die trying. Marchand raised his hand, and the warriors surged forward. Theodore moved to intercept, but Elise pulled him back. No. Her voice was soft but unyielding. This is not your fight. It is my fight. I claimed you. I bound myself to you. If they kill you, they might as well kill me too. The confession hung in the air between them, and Elise finally understood. That is what you meant last night. About losing control. The bond does not just stabilize me. It binds you to my fate. If I die, you die. If my power grows, it affects you too. Yes. Theodore's jaw tightened. I knew the risk when I made the claim. I thought I could control it, manage it, keep both of us safe long enough to find another way. But you are stronger than I anticipated. Growing faster than any prophecy suggested. And now we are both running out of time. The warriors were closing in, forming a tighter circle, cutting off any escape. Elise could see silver chains in their hands, suppressant herbs, weapons designed to end wolves quickly and quietly. They had come prepared for execution. I need you to trust me, Elise said, squeezing Theodore's hand. Can you do that? I do not know, he admitted. Can you trust yourself? I am about to find out. Before Theodore could stop her, Elise stepped forward. The warriors hesitated, uncertain, waiting for the order to strike. Marguerite gave it without mercy. Take her. They lunged as one, a coordinated attack meant to overwhelm through numbers. Elise did not shift, did not fight back, simply stood her ground as they grabbed her. Silver chains wrapped around her wrists, burning her skin. Suppressant herbs were shoved against her face, their acrid smell making her gag. Hands dragged her toward the ceremony grounds, toward the platform where the dead flame still sat cold in its bronze bowl. Theodore fought like a demon, taking down 3 warriors before they subdued him. They forced him to his knees, made him watch as they dragged Elise onto the platform and chained her to the central post. The pack gathered in a circle, just as they had for the mating ceremony 2 nights ago. But this time there was no joy, no anticipation. Only grim necessity and barely concealed fear. Marguerite climbed the platform steps, her silver knife catching the light. Brothers and sisters of Valmont. She addressed the crowd. We gather to end a threat. To protect our pack and all packs from the fracture prophecy. This Omega, this cursed thing, must die before her power destroys us all. Elise met the elder's eyes, refusing to look away, refusing to show fear even as the chains burned and the suppressants clouded her senses. You are making a mistake, she said clearly. I am not your enemy. You are the enemy of all packs. Marguerite raised the knife. And now you pay the price for existing. The knife descended. Time seemed to slow. Elise could see every detail, the way the silver blade caught the morning light, the determination in Marguerite's ancient face, the horror in Theodore's eyes as he struggled against his captors. And then something inside Elise broke. Not her will. Not her spirit. But the last fragile remnants of the binding that had suppressed her since birth. The final chains holding back her true nature shattered like glass, and power exploded outward in a wave that knocked every wolf in the clearing off their feet. The silver chains around her wrists melted. The suppressant herbs turned to ash. And Elise stood at the center of a maelstrom of pure, ancient, divine power that made the ground crack and the trees bend, and every wolf present dropped to their knees in involuntary submission. Marguerite scrambled backward, the knife falling from her nerveless fingers. "Impossible," she whispered. "This cannot be." But it was. Elise could feel it now, feel the full weight of what she was. Not just an Omega. Not just a wolf. She was touched by the moon goddess herself, marked from birth as judge and arbiter. The one who would decide which packs had forgotten their purpose and which still served the ancient ways. Her voice, when she spoke, echoed with power that was not entirely her own. Enough. Every wolf froze. Not by choice, but by compulsion. The command woven into that single word left no room for disobedience. Elise descended from the platform, the crowd parting before her like water before stone. She walked to where Theodore knelt, his captors having released him the moment her power manifested. His eyes met hers, and she saw the truth there. The bond was killing him. Her power, uncontained and wild, was burning through him like acid through paper. "You are dying," she said quietly. "Because of me. Because of what I am." Yes. He did not try to deny it. The bond was never meant to hold this much power. "I am not strong enough to be your anchor. Then I release you." Elise reached for the bond, that invisible thread connecting them, and felt its frayed edges, the way it was tearing him apart from the inside. "Do not." Theodore grabbed her wrist, his grip weak but desperate. "If you break the bond now, your power will be completely uncontrolled. You will destroy everything in a 100-mile radius. Everyone you have ever known will die. Then what do I do?" Elise's voice broke. "How do I save you without killing everyone else?" "You cannot." Theodore's smile was sad, resigned. "That is the curse of the prophecy. Power without balance. Strength without control. I knew the risk. I accepted it. Now you have to let me go." "No." Elise shook her head fiercely. "There has to be another way." "There is." A new voice cut through the tension. Antoine, the healer, stepped forward. His face was pale but determined. "The prophecy speaks of judgment, not destruction. She is meant to choose to decide. But she cannot choose if she has no control. Cannot judge if she cannot think clearly." "What are you saying, old man?" Marguerite spat from where she cowered near the platform. "I am saying that the bond is not wrong," Antoine continued. "It is incomplete. She claimed him by necessity, by force. But the prophecy requires choice. Willing bond. Equal partnership. That is the only way to balance power this great." Elise looked at Theodore, understanding dawning. "You lied to me. Used me. Tried to control me. Why would I choose you willingly?" "Because despite everything I see you." Theodore's voice was barely a whisper. "Not as a prophecy. Not as a power to be controlled. But as Elise. The girl who sat alone at ceremonies. The one everyone feared and no one knew. I see you and I am still here. That is not enough. I know." He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. "But it is all I have to offer." Elise closed her eyes, feeling the bond between them, fraying and failing. She could break it. Could free him and let her power run wild. Could destroy the pack that had bound her, suppressed her, tried to execute her. The anger was there, burning hot and righteous. They deserved it. All of them. But that was not judgment. That was revenge. And the prophecy called for a judge, not an executioner. Elise opened her eyes and looked at Theodore, really looked at him. Saw the exhaustion carved into his features, the pain he was hiding, the genuine regret in his storm-gray eyes. He had lied to her, yes. Had used her. But he had also stood between her and death. Had taught her that she was not cursed. Had shown her, however imperfectly, that she had value beyond what others feared. I am going to break the bond, she said clearly. And then I am going to choose you. Not because I have to. Not because I need you to survive. But because I want to. Theodore's eyes widened. Elise, you cannot know if that will work. No. But I am the judge. And this is my choice. Before anyone could stop her, before her own doubt could intervene, Elise reached for the bond and shattered it. The backlash hit like a tidal wave, power flooding through her with nothing to contain it, nothing to channel it. She heard Theodore scream, felt him collapse as the connection severed, felt her own power building, spiraling, threatening to tear reality apart. And then she made her choice. Not with words, not with ritual, but with pure intention, pure will. She reached for Theodore, not with her hands, but with her soul, and offered him a bond forged in choice rather than necessity. A partnership built on equality rather than control. For a moment, nothing happened. The power continued to build, continued to rage. Elise felt her control slipping, felt destruction seconds away. Then Theodore reached back. His acceptance of the bond hit like lightning, pure and bright and right. This time, when the connection formed, it was different. Not a chain but a bridge. Not a lock but a doorway. Power flowed between them, balanced and controlled, each supporting the other. Elise gasped as the maelstrom subsided, as control returned, as she felt herself truly whole for the first time in her life. She looked at Theodore, now standing beside her, his wounds healing, his strength returning. In his eyes, she saw understanding. Partnership. Equality. It is done. Antoine's voice was filled with awe. The prophecy is fulfilled. Not through force, but through choice. Elise turned to face the pack, who still knelt in submission. When she spoke, her voice carried authority but not cruelty. Judgment but not vengeance. You bound me because you feared me, she said clearly. You tried to kill me because you could not control me. But I am not here to destroy you. I am here to remind you of what we are meant to be. Wolves who honor the goddess. Who protect the weak. Who choose pack over pride. Her eyes found Marguerite. You forgot those truths. Let fear guide your actions. For that, you will step down from the council. Let younger voices lead, voices that remember mercy. Marguerite's face twisted with rage, but she could not protest. Could not disobey. The judgment had been pronounced. Elise's gaze moved to Marchand. You allowed the binding of an innocent child. Allowed fear to override compassion. You are no longer fit to lead this pack. Choose a successor, or I will choose for you. Marchand bowed his head, acknowledging the truth of her words. One by one, Elise addressed those who had wronged her, those who had enabled her suffering. But she did not destroy, did not punish beyond stripping power from those who had abused it. This was judgment, not revenge. This was the prophecy fulfilled. When she finished, she walked to the platform where the sacred flame sat cold and dead. She placed her hand on the bronze bowl, and silver fire erupted from her palm, filling the vessel with light that was not gold but pure moonlight made manifest. The flame is reborn, she announced. And so is this pack. Let what was broken be made whole. Let what was feared be understood. Let what was cursed be blessed. The pack, still kneeling, bowed their heads in acceptance. Not out of fear, though fear remained, but out of recognition. The prophecy had come to pass, and it had not destroyed them. It had judged them, found them wanting, and offered them a chance to be better. Elise stepped down from the platform, Theodore at her side. The bond between them hummed with balance and strength. He took her hand, and this time, the touch was not about possession or control. It was about choice, about partnership, about two souls who had found each other in the darkness and decided to walk toward the light together. The moon reveals what daylight hides, ma petite. Her grandmother's words echoed in her memory. And finally, Elise understood. The moon had revealed that she was not cursed. That she had never been cursed. She had simply been waiting to choose. Waiting to become. Waiting for the moment when she would stand in her own power and decide her own fate. That moment had come. The cursed Omega was dead. In her place stood something new. Something ancient. Something that would reshape the world of wolves not through destruction, but through the simple, radical act of choosing love over fear, partnership over control, judgment tempered with mercy. The prophecy was fulfilled, and Elise, who had sat alone at the mating ceremony,